Good afternoon, I'm Toby Elliott from Blacksburg High School. Today I'm going to discuss vocabulary acquisition. There are roughly over 6,500 spoken languages throughout the world today. With that figure, we need to understand that vocabulary is an essential part of our lives in being successful people. As educators and executive leaders, we must strategically plan and have a continuous plan to improve and build our students' vocabulary in our language and in the individual disciplines that are offered at our schools or that we teach. Illegal motion, pulling guard, passing tree, QB, fullback, trap, secondary. These are terms that are used in football. And if you are going to play and be successful in that sport, as well as other terms, you need to be aware of what these terms represent, what they mean, and how they interact with a football team. Middle, defensive specialist, libero or libero, R2, jump serve, middle blocker. These are important terminologies or terms that you're going to use if you play volleyball. Racket, serve, receive, backhand, chip, love. 1 Corinthians states that between faith, hope, and love, the greatest of these is love. But if you're playing tennis, love, you have zero. You have nothing. So you need to understand the context in which these particular words, and I know it's spelled differently, but but you've got to know these terminologies. These terminologies are used in tennis. Ball shaft belt, cabin lighting, downshift cable, drive axle boots, purge valve, spoilers. I have absolutely no idea what these mean. But if you're going to be a successful mechanic, you must know what they mean and what they represent, and the context and how to use these in your particular profession. Vocabulary acquisition, brief description. It is learning and understanding new terminology in such a degree that it is used accurately in oral and written communication. There are key features and functions. With our limited time, I'm not going to go over all of these, but identifying keywords and their meanings using text features, focusing on understanding vocabulary rather than just simply define them. You need to understand them, emphasizes connections with prior knowledge, and so forth, and dealing with also differentiation. Here's some interesting things that I found, information that I found in my research. Between ages 2 and 5, children learn an estimated 1,500 new words every year, or about 5 words a day. Ages 5 to 10, you learn about 8 new words a day. Ages 10 to 19, 4,800 to 6,500 words per year, or 13 to 18 words per day. What this simply tells us that our children learn new words constantly throughout their education. And because of that, we must have a specific, strategic plan to make sure that we're continuously building our children, our students' vocabulary so that they can be successful. Because when they leave here, whatever profession they choose, there's going to be another group of lexicon or jargon or words or terms that they're going to have to digest to be successful in their field. So with that, whether you're an executive leader or whether you are a teacher of a subject area, there must be a plan in place in which all grade levels, all teachers, all subject areas deal with vocabulary acquisition. From the beginning, our students are learning vocabulary words, and to understand that this needs to be a vital part of our planning process as teachers and leaders. The reason being, academic vocabulary is one of the strongest indicators of how well students will learn subject area content. There is a strong statistical link between a person's vocabulary comprehension ability and there's a very strong link between these two in academic success. Now, steps to implementation. Curriculum must be aware of the vocabulary tiers when planning curriculum. There are 3 tiers, and you need to understand these when you're going to basically deal with vocabulary acquisition properly. The first tier, words that are basic terms in the English language and rarely require any type of instructional attention. Those are your tier 1 words. Tier 2 appear infrequently enough that they will probably not be learned in content, but these should be taught directly. Example, a base. In social studies is where military operations dealt with. In math, it is number that's raised to a particular power. In science, it's a compound that deals with acids, that works with acids. In language, arts, and others, it's used for baseball. You got to touch each base, and then the fourth one, the home plate, you get a point or a run. Cheerleading, my daughter, 8-year-old, is on a competitive cheerleading squad, and she is a base. She is the groundwork, the strength of the actual pyramid or stunts. So you've got to be able to take Tier 2 words and use them properly and teach them directly. Tier 3 are subject specific and addressed in academic subject areas. K through 9, there are 6,768 terms that should be taught, according to Marzano, Kendall, and Painter. That should be taught. That's 5.5 words per day and distributed across all grade levels. Now, we understand, and I agree with these three people in terms of K through 6, just this amount of vocabulary. That's too much. That's a lot of vocabulary words. Marzano in 2010 found that there are over 28 words in Tier 1, 2,800 words in Tier 1, 2,500 words in Tier 2 are advanced. Now, we realize we've got to upgrade and continuously think about building our children, our students' vocabulary. That is vital. You've got to be able to read. And once you can read, everything else can kind of fall into place. You can really deal with concepts more in subject areas. Well, there are ideas for implementation. I don't want to go over all these, but Greek and Latin roots. Students can decode unfamiliar terms by using prefixes and suffixes to predict meanings. There's the Freyer model, which I use a variation of the Freyer model that includes the definition, characteristics, examples, and non-examples, and a graphic organizer. I like to use word walls. We have to use those in our particular school. My wife actually deals with, she's an 8th grade English teacher, and she deals with, she uses hand signals or gestures for words. Over the Thanksgiving holidays, and she taught our 17-year-old at Grenard Middle School as well. Well, over Thanksgiving holidays, my wife Pam had some like 7 or 8 kids come over. They were in the neighborhood, and so they were her students, present students. So they came over to visit her, and they got into conversation about school. And one of the students looked at my daughter Abby. It says, "Hey, do you remember any of these words that your mother taught?" And she's in the 11th grade, so we're talking 3 years ago, roughly. And they were able to do a gesture, and my daughter was able to talk about the word and the meaning just like that. So there are ways to implement in your classroom strategies to make sure that these words are dealt with for long term, and they stick with our students. What planning would look like in this particular model, there are 6 steps that I've agreed with in this particular research. Step 1 is the teacher presents the term in student-friendly language. How do you do that? You introduce direct experiences, field trips, guest speakers, or however how you want to introduce it. You can tell a story that integrates the term. You can use video or computer images. We are a one-to-one initiative now, so we have easy access to that type of information. We can ask individual students or small groups to investigate the term and present the information, maybe in the form of a skit or something like that. We can use current events. You can use current events to help make the term applicable to the students. We can describe our own mental picture of the term. I drew it on the board. I'm not going to show you when I was dealing with the Freyer model. I like to, when I deal with vocabulary acquisition, I like to use index cards, and on the front they are to illustrate the word as long as it connects their brain to that particular illustration to that word to that definition. I'm cool with that, of course, as long as it's appropriate. And on the back, they put the word at the top and the definition. Sometimes I can tweak it they can write a sentence, any examples, any prior knowledge that they have, anything like that. We're flexible with the back. But in my brain, when I was teaching this particular exercise, I drew and it's terrible, I know. I would show it to you, but I can't. It's ridiculous. But I drew a picture of, I had a stage, and I had a girl, a little cheerleader, doing a split, and I had a stage, and I put at the top competition, and in I had the cheerleader saying, holding this ticket or holding this piece of paper, and it had one direction on it. And I had the cheerleader saying, OMG, I cannot believe I'm going. And that's it. Well, I told my kids, I said, what do you think of when you see this? Because this is the image that popped into my head. It was easy. The cheerleader doing a split. She was holding a concert ticket to one direction. So in government, it's split ticket voting. So they were able to do that. And so I presented and described my own mental picture, but I actually showed it to them through my ridiculous drawing. Find or create pictures that exemplify the term. That's what I have my kids do, and that's what I did as well. Step 2. Students restate the terms in their own words, linking the new word with their own experiences and background knowledge. How do you do that? You could construct your own descriptions, explanations, or examples. And I didn't really think about this, but I think it's a big deal and we should really do this, not just in my class, but I think throughout the whole school. We should keep an academic vocabulary section in our notebook, whether it's via on notebook in the computer or in the on paper or in both. And so that we can continuously refer to that, and of course refer that even to our word walls that we have. Step 3, students represent the term in a graphic form, reinforcing and deepening understanding through the processing in a second modality. You can ask, and this is what I go back to as I was saying to you, you can ask them to construct a picture, a symbol, some graphic representation of the term or phrase. And this, of course, we try to make sure that this is non-linguistic in terms of representation. Step 4, engage students periodically in activities that help them add to their knowledge of the terms in their notebooks. Understanding deepens when words are re-examined over time. Examples of activities, you can identify synonyms or antonyms. You can draw additional graphics as you gather more information about the term as you revisit it. You can list related words or create metaphors. Step 5, students discuss the terms with their peers. This step can be student-directed and unstructured. Discussions should occur before revising entries if you're going to revise the entries in your notebook. So there's a collaborative effort and engagement there. Step 6, vocabulary games. They give students more exposure to the term that you're dealing with. Good high school level games. Which one doesn't belong? Who am I? What is the question? Kind of like Jeopardy and Classroom Feud instead of family. All right, differentiation, benefits, and technology. Differentiation. Look, the strategies that I have listed on the PowerPoint and the others that are out there, even just take the one where you create a graphic representation of a term. That is differentiation automatically. These kids, through their own experiences, on their own levels, are able to represent that term, take that term, and put it in the context, some type of context, and with that, they create long-term memory of that particular term or terms. So differentiation, it's pretty simple and easy when you deal with vocabulary acquisition. Benefits, I agree with the people that I did some research on, Marzano, Kendall, and Paintner. There are too many words, and as a result, there has to be some specific strategic planning in all grade levels, in all subject areas, and in all schools must focus on vocabulary acquisition. Who's going to benefit? Students in poverty is going to benefit. You probably can't see this, but a 36-month-old children from welfare families have 70% of the vocabulary of working class families, and 45% of the vocabulary from professional families. The gap widens as the children get older. So if educators, backed and supported by executive leaders, can get on this vocabulary acquisition bandwagon and really stress this, I believe that with the research that academic student achievement will increase. Other who benefits? are English language learners. Typically, ELL students beginning school has already learned 5,000 to 7,000 words in their primary language.